welcome to another CMH podcast with Pascal and Matt. We had planned to rename it to New World, but we are not doing so. At least not yet. Anyway, that's
I
a little
won't
bit out
let
of
him.
the. That's a rumor. Anyway, let's crack open a cold one. I've already done so. Let's have a little chat, and we've got something special coming up for you. Our first, let's call it, interview with a special guest, and you'll see soon enough who that is. But just a little hint, he has something to do with our upcoming mod release of Grand Touring Group 5, and for that, I cheer you on, and let's have a little drink. Alright. Now, we've done a few of those podcasts, not a lot. I think the last one was where Matt did some modding live on
Yeah,
air.
yeah. I had to. I had to take it down because the bit rate was not
Bad.
too good
It was
at
bad.
at a time where
Really,
I
really
had.
bad.
Yeah,
It was
it
bad.
was at a time where my laptop was still cheaper than a used car, and
So let's
I mean,
the bit rate. It was bad. It was bad. It was really really bad.
yeah.
Anyway,
I even addressed it in the. I have to even update. I haven't done an episode 2 for that series yet. Like, I wanted to record a next part where I teach people how to make headlights and brake lights. I haven't done it yet. So, if people, if
suppose we just got a cup of that fact now.
yeah, I mean, yeah, I suppose.
Anyway,
Uh,
we're now in 2022, so even from us now on this podcast, Happy New Year to everyone. Hope you all survived the first. Well, it's the 19th of January at this time, so I hope you survived all the first 3 weeks of 2021. If you didn't, rest in peace, I guess. Anyway, so we got some stuff in the real world going on. Formula One car launches. We had a massively controversial Formula One season finale. I don't know if you want to talk about that. I'm pretty sure we're gonna start a turf war if
oh
if we
yeah,
start talking about that.
Team LH versus Team MV.
Yeah, yeah.
I'm not about to control. I'm not about to
No, let's just
watch
look. Let's just.
watch that happen.
I'm just gonna say it was an unfortunate thing that happened. Like it shouldn't. It shouldn't have happened, but the aftermath shouldn't have happened either. I mean, you imagine being so riled up about a sport and being so obsessed with personality that you send death threats to any competitor of them. Yeah. Anyway, that's enough.
Like I know one I'm gonna throw my 1 cent in. It's the only cent I have on it. But
Poor ass.
yeah, I know the ending of the race was controversial, but like Max passed him at the end fair and square. You can't complain about it. That's not. It's a race is a race, and whatever happens, that's just like. There's been plenty more controversial moments in F1, plenty more that affected the outcomes of races than this season
There's a
ending.
massive
So
like F1 iceberg which I've been looking at to write a script
yeah.
on, but I haven't been doing that for like a week or so. I should probably continue that, but yeah. I mean, anyway, so 2022 new cars coming up with ground effects, and they're supposed to be looking way sleeker, 18-inch tires, and some teams have already also published the date when they're gonna uncover their cars or reveal their cars. I mean, McLaren, for example, they've got like what Formula One, IndyCar, and everything, like 4 or 5 different cars they're gonna uncover on the same day. So that's gonna be something. Then you got Ferrari on the 17th of February. I think they revealed that just a few days ago. I think yesterday or even 2 days ago. And look, if you're in for a good spoiler, here's one. The Ferrari will be red. I mean, it's not as obvious as you may think. I mean, Ferrari raced yellow cars in the 60s. and a white Ferrari won the 1964 Formula One World Championship. I mean, come on, get real. Anyway, adding to that, we've also had what else? The Dakar Rally, which doesn't even happen in Africa, but it like in Saudi Arabia is quite. It's been in the news recently quite a bit. Like there were like this one driver who just had like 2 hit and runs during that rally, and one guy that I think died or something from. I haven't been quite up to speed with that, but it's quite. Oh yeah, and what was it? A bomb that exploded in one of the cars at some
Yeah,
hotel or something. Like it's been like a week or two since that happened, but just imagine you're driving a rally and then your car just explodes because there's been apparently or allegedly a bomb under the pedals or something that just exploded. Like Jesus Christ, you're getting quite fucked out there.
and then they don't. I don't. Yeah, that's the. I have to be really careful if I want to make commentary on that because I don't want to say something that's gonna get me in trouble.
Yeah,
But
the Saudi authorities are gonna come for you. They
so
got they got your address from. No, I'm not gonna say that just now. You know what I was gonna say. You know what I was gonna say. Who told them your
yeah,
address?
yeah,
See,
yeah. I
I
think
can hear the seething.
I would say you can hear me seething in the background. Yeah, I won't say anything. I won't say anything.
All
I
right.
just for better or for worse.
Going back. Okay, changing topic to what I was actually referring to right now. You may know people. Y'all may know that we've been working on a Group 5 mod. For like the past year. Um, it's called GTG5. It stands for Grand Touring Group 5, and it's supposed to include the seasons of 1977 to 1981 of Group 5. Well, basically what is now DTM. So I must say DTM is quite DTM, and it's pretty. It went down on quite of a downward spiral at some point. And
Oh, right now it's okay. I won't say it's the worst, but
no, I mean
that the
the
last
cars,
the
the
last
cars.
season.
The cars. I'm talking about the cars. I mean, you started with DRP, in like the early '70s with these Group 2 and Group 4 cars or whatever they were. They were like really nice. They were. I mean, come on, who doesn't like those old cars? And then got to DRM with like early in the mid '70s, and you get the Group 5 cars, the special production ones. Like that's where GTG5 kicks in with these
Yeah.
turbocharged cars, Porsche 935, Ford Capri, the Toyota Celica and whatnot, the BMWs. And then DRM, it's kind of, and then in the early 80s, it kind of is Group 5, Group C and stuff like that. Like, kind of DRM didn't really exist as part of the World Sports Car Championship, kind of a transitional period.
It
And
was
then
almost as popular as it literally it got so popular across all of mainland Europe that like all the special events like Nürburgring and Nürburgring, you'd have people in their Ferraris turning up. You had people in Chevrolets, all all across the globe turning up at those races. It was probably one of them. It's the reason why it still exists today because it was probably one of the most famous national championships. I like you say. I know you're focusing on how the cars are kind of developing
how
into
they
a
how
bit
they
of a
how they how the,
spiral.
how the rules evolve basically because uh again
Yeah,
and then in the
there
mid
was a bit
80s
of
they went to Group
there's
A,
controversy. Yeah.
get Group A, then eventually the Super Tourers, and then
Mm.
they had their own like class, the what's it called, the no, not ITC but
It was like Class A or something, or
Class A or
Class
something,
One
like
and
where you
Class
had these
Two.
great like
Mm.
the oh, we actually have a picture of them in the background right now, like the Opel Vectra and the Mercedes C Class and all that stuff. Like that was great. That's like, and having grown up in that time, with like DTM on TV and stuff like that, that was like the golden era. Like I was hooked on that. Like maybe even more than Formula One, because Formula One was just like international, but DTM was mostly Central Europe. Anyway, and then eventually they went to GT3, which is just. I'm not a fan of GT3 cars, really. I mean, I like the way they look, and I like that they are quick, but
They're cheap,
well,
very
and
accessible
relatively cheap
for
but,
the middle class. But yeah,
the middle class.
Yeah, those are pretty much the people who can
that
afford the cheapest models. Yeah,
dude, you just sound like, GT3 is for the middle class. Ew, stay away with that. I make $5 billion. Anyway,
yeah.
I mean, I like GT3 as a class. I just don't like the fact that you see
There's
them.
too much of
There's
it.
way
It's
too
everywhere.
much. Like, I mean,
They're everywhere. They're in the trees.
GT3 got a GT3, but yeah, that's basically what I meant. Anyway, GTG5, 77 to 81, basically the Group 5 era, and we finished with 77 and 78 recently, at least for Automobilista, and that the 78 season is being used by the International Sim Racing Organization for their stuff, while we use R Factor 1977 at CMH. So we're starting in April. They've started already. Like, the first ISO race is on the 30th of January, where Matt and myself will be taking part as well. He's gonna be in what was it? The Celica. You're in the Celica in the Group 1, Division 1 Celica.
Division 1. Yeah.
And I took I took a Division 2. What is it? Ford Escort.
Ford Escort.
Yeah,
the Zach Speed Escort.
Yeah, I'm taking a Zach Speed Escort, expecting a sick livery, and then I'm getting told it's a plain white car. I mean, talk about my life.
It was one of the spare cars.
I'm just getting sloppy seconds, honestly.
Yeah, you're literally an engineer of Zach Speed who got special permission to take part with the spare car. Because at that point,
I'm the MacGyver of the
was
team.
Gonna get. At that point, Hayer was going to get the Capri Turbo, so
lovely.
You know, pretty much throw away the second car, have one of the engineers have fun, and then crash into a barrier. But anyway,
yeah, that's what we call foreshadowing.
The AMS version is public, and it's just going to get a bit of patches here and there. But the R Factor version isn't public yet.
No, because
however, because it's taking longer to come out, it gets more features. Like, it's going to get the revised damage model. It's going to get an extra configuration for one of the 1977 cars. It's going to get a bit more updated engines.
Mainly
from one of our guys.
Mainly, they're gonna be R Factor spec and not just NA versions of the AMS turbo cars.
Yeah, so little details that will be improved, but AMS will get those versions by 1979. So you don't try and kill me because of some.
Oh no, they're trying to kill you for some other reasons. I mean.
There's a whole other issue going on in the background of that development right now, but I won't bring it up. I won't bring that up.
You won't, here. But I will.
Oh, did you want to get in trouble?
No, I mean it's just.
If you bring it up, we're in. You know.
I don't really care. I'm not gonna mention any names, but the thing is just. You have this mod, which is an accurate representation of this group of vehicles for these years, and then someone else who made a mod that the only thing those two packs of content share is the general type of cars.
Yeah, the theme.
And then they try to strike you down because they think you use their assets, which is completely freaking false. And you know, just hit the report button without even looking at it.
Or even better yet, they give you the assets to use, and then they go back on it
without letting you know. The only way you get informed of the fact they went back on their promise or whatever is because they posted in public and just slander your name like shit. Anyway, but that's. It could also just be a massive misunderstanding because there was this DRM 3.1 thing which was shit, honestly, which was a shit edit of a mod, which I don't know. It just should be a massive
It was
misunderstanding.
just bad. It was just. I mean, it was a time where our team,
Learning,
or
learning.
most of it, is still learning, and we had a fun championship, and it actually got very competitive at one point until my controller disconnected. But
Until your controller just get a
yeah,
wheel.
I'm waiting for the last couple parts. It's taken ages, but
What the hell
soon,
you mean the
soon.
last couple parts? It's not. Are you building
I
your own
ordered
wheel
all
or
the
what?
parts separately. I'm a cheapskate. It's the same way I built my computer, my new computer. I order all my parts separately for the maximum profit.
So I think that's really all you can say about it. We also have like our
It's
2022
gonna be
season,
great.
obviously. I already mentioned DRM 1977. We're starting that in April. But if you're looking to wait until April to actually join us, we will personally find you and cut off your nut. No, never mind. No, we won't. We won't. We won't do that. No. But we have
Well, you actually get to experience the cars quite early on if you don't wait until April, because
because we have.
well, I can't say because it's not public yet. But
No,
you get the you
we
get.
can actually
Oh, we
mention it.
can. Oh,
Yeah, I
we
mean,
can.
look,
Okay,
it's a month until it's actually about.
less than a month,
No,
even a couple of weeks.
exactly a month now. A month and a day. So we got
All right.
you got to really hurry up with those engines, man. Holy shit. Anyway, the thing is, we had last year we had the thing called the CMH Gold Star, which was like an open competition, like all sorts of open races, Formula One, Formula Two, Formula Three, Formula Formula Balls, I don't know, some road endurance stuff, rally, hill climb,
Bits
uh,
and
bits and
pieces.
pieces of everything. We hadn't really planned that one in advance. So here's a fun fact: as surprised as you guys were, or as surprised as the drivers were with the events that came up, we were just as surprised because most of the times when an event got planned, it's just
Off the cuff.
either myself or Matt or even Victor came into admin chat. We're like, hey, how about we do this event at some point? And then everyone was like, yeah, we could do that. And this is the question: is okay, when are we going to do it?
Tomorrow.
Hell, no idea. And then everyone's just like, oh, we got no idea. We don't even have a schedule. Like okay, we can plan it. We can do it in like 3 weeks. Okay, do we have? Can someone make? Someone needs to make the thread, or someone needs to make an announcement. And literally everyone was just surprised. And when the thread came up, basically only when the thread came up, or the Discord channel, or the forum thread, was when everyone knew. Okay, we're definitely gonna do this. I mean, for example, with the only event that was the only two events on the CMH Gold Star in 2021 that were thoroughly planned was the Targa Florio and the final race, the Silverstone 1000. The rest was just off the cuff, just spontaneously. Like me coming in with the GP2 race. I was like, hey, why don't we do GP2? I have this GP2 mod here. I found that I can just patch it a little bit with new sounds so the cars sound like GP2 cars, and we're gonna go to Bahrain. And then and everyone was like, all right. And then there was like some sort of disagreement because I think there was like, yeah, but GP2 blah blah blah, and then the question came, yeah, well, anyone got any better ideas? And I was just silence.
Hmm.
And that's how we got to do the GP2 race in, when was it, September or October? It was at Bahrain.
It's not the best roadmap, but
It
it
won the
got us through the season. Like.
it won the best roadmap, but it got us to the end of the year. Now back on topic. Back on topic. We got the schedule this time. It's published on the forum at classicmotorsporthub.boards.net. Registration is obviously free, so if you're interested in racing with us, which we really hope you are, because we really, I hate to toot my own horn, but as far as classic racing goes, after the demise of HSO, this is really the place you have to be. I mean, you come on. Anyway, we rebranded this thing. It's not called the Gold Star anymore because HSO called it the Gold Star, and it just sounded like too much of a rip-off. So we call it the CMH Masters Trophy, and the champion this year will be crowned the Master of Classic Motorsport. And I don't know, maybe they'll receive a trophy or something, but the question is who's going to pay for it. The schedule's already public on the forum, and the first
Rock,
race...
paper, scissors.
Rock, paper,
Rock, paper, scissors.
Alright, rock, paper, scissors in Among Us chat. The first race is will be on the 20th of February. So as I said, already in a month. And it will be a DRM race using the GTG5 mod, the 1978 Nürburgring trophy race. Or, Matt, you think it's called a
Trophy, Geldrennen, same thing. They're same thing.
Yeah,
It's
basically a non-championship DRM race at the Nürburgring. The reason they ran it back then is because, well, the guys were already at the Nürburgring to begin with for the 200-mile race, so why not just do another one and get some more Yahoo? Which is not bad because it gives us an opportunity to schedule this race.
It's like a big promotional event where they just it was mostly for the works teams. The works teams used it to we're in the center, we're in the heart of Germany. We have a lot of spectators. Usually the stands are packed to the brim. Why don't we just show off our technology and bring a big car that we're using somewhere else and try to show up all the little guys who...
Didn't the Moby Dick take part in that race?
Yeah. So if you want to drive the Moby Dick, you have to be fast, you have to be quick, and okay.
that was okay. That was good. So yeah, we got so that's already known. We already know that. The only thing we need to do is finish up the mod, get it uploaded on our servers, and then publish the thread. Because that's basically a done deal already. Other than that, we got 7 races this year, counting towards the Masters Trophy. We have the 1971 SCCA Trans Am Championship, which is going through, I think, 10 or 11 races. Then we've got Formula Ford 1973, the Weller for Men Championship. If you never heard of that, don't worry, I haven't either. I literally researched that last year, in the middle of last year. Was like, yeah, we can do like Formula Ford. They ran a lot of championships in Formula Ford in 1973, like even in England. You had BRSCC, BARC, BRDC, we had to find one, and so it's the BARC Weller for Men National Championship. We run on Thursdays with those Formula Ford cars. And what else? We got DRM 1977, and that's basically it. Just check out our forum, classicmotorsporthub.boards.net. Anyway, let's go have a quick jump cut because the main topic is basically Group 5, GTG5, and we've had a special guest a week or two ago. So let me check when did we record that? On the 8th of January is when we recorded that. So that's already almost 2 weeks ago. But yeah, it's about time we get that finished. We had a special guest who himself I think wasn't that he wasn't really there at the time when these cars really were built and raced, but he has experience racing stuff like a Porsche 935 and a BMW CSL. So with that being said, let's jump cut right over to our special guest interview with Ulli Andree. All right, so now we have in the booth as well like our first special guest, because we obviously have been talking all along the first few times. So I would like to welcome now to the CMH podcast, Mr. Ulli Andree.
Hi there. Thank you very much for inviting me.
So Matt knows more about what exactly we're about today, because you two have talked on Facebook. So I'm just gonna change my name first of all. Hold on, and Matt can start everything. Because as far as I understand, you were... Well, let's actually go back to the very beginning, where everything started for you.
Okay. So everything in the end of the day, and we talked earlier a little bit, and you talked about your sim racing and that you are pretty much into Group 5 right now, in terms of the mod, etc., etc. And I think Matt invited me because I had the big pleasure to drive a Group 5 car, but that was not back in the 80s or 70s. That was in 2013 on a historic event, right? So this is not where my racing career started, basically.
So you drove, you're right. We started the whole getting in touch with people who know how those cars feel because we were developing the Group 5 mod.
Yeah.
Let's go into a bit more detail. What cars actually did you get to drive, and how did they feel? Like aren't they actually those turbocharged beasts that they're put out to be?
Yeah, yes and no. I mean, when it comes to the historical sector, I've been driving the 935 K3. So it was the famous Jägermeister Porsche from 1980 from the Kramer team. That originally was driven by, I think it was in the beginning of the season, it was Axel Plankenhorn, but then also John Fitzpatrick and Rolf Stommelin and also Bob Wollek drove that car. So it was a big honor for me to be able to drive that car. And then I was also invited to the Le Mans Classic event in 2016, where I drove my childhood dream, kind of, a BMW 3.5 CSL, which is a car which I, as I just said, adored since childhood days. And I also was able to drive a very unique Group 2 BMW 635 CSI. That was the very car that I think in 1981 won the ETCC, so the European Touring Car Championship, with Helmut Kellenas and I think Umberto Grano. So this was pretty much it when it comes to historical race cars. Everything else was contemporary race cars. But coming back to your question, you asked me about the turbo and the beast character of the 935. In the end of the day, the answer is yes and no. So the car is really brutal because we are talking 1,080 kilograms and 850 bhp. So in the end of the day, what you have is every horse is kind of carrying a bottle of water. That's about it, right? So that's not a lot. So the power to weight ratio is outrageous. And yes, it is a beast, and yes, it is brutal, and yes, it has the power to snap in each corner. Doesn't matter the radius of the corner, doesn't matter the gear, if it's the second, the third, or the fourth gear, it doesn't matter at all. On the other hand, it depends on you as a driver and your driving style to kind of tame this beast. And if you adapt to the car and if you read the signs that the car gives you, then you are pretty much able to cope with it.
I'm just listening to this now. I can kind of imagine it. I mean, we're all basically just, when we do like the sim racing, we're just sitting on a desk chair if we're lucky.
Yeah.
And just having everything on the screen, but listening and hearing that, the car is that brutal. It's personally, it puts a massive smile on my face.
Yeah, the thing is, I mean, I've been driving the car on the Nürburgring Grand Prix circuit at the time. That was back in 2013 at the famous Eifelrennen. And I can tell you that the start-finish straight, it has never been shorter. Because, I mean, you reach, I mean, the main street, the main straight at the Nürburgring is not so long. But at the end, you reach, like, I think a top speed of 280 Ks. And the fastest bit is on the opposite of the track, on the far side of the circuit, when you approach the last chicane, which I think is already been renamed again into, what is it? Dual Chicane, I think.
Yeah, last thing I remember was Dual.
Yeah, exactly. So if you, for instance, if you take the top speed of a GT3 car at that point, before the braking zone for that chicane, we talk about maybe 240, 242, 245 when you've done it right. What do you think was my top speed in the K3?
I mean, you're talking. I would put out an educated guess. If you say you go 280 on the start finish
main straight, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Going up to the Vedo chicane. through that kink at least 300.
No.
I throw my hat in the ring. I'd say more than that, at least.
No. It wasn't. Actually, it's 288. 288. But that's still quick. If you compare it to a modern GT3 car, it's still 40 k's more. It's 288, and of course, since it's an old car, it doesn't have downforce. It doesn't have the braking technology that the GT3 car.
Did it have all the original technology, like more importantly, the engine and
everything?
It had everything.
Perfectly status quo 1980.
So not one even restored or anything. It was.
I mean, yeah, it was restored. I mean, everything. It looked like brand new. Everything was restored, but it was restored in a way that it was historically correct. Right?
And you aren't.
It still doesn't have a traction control. It doesn't have an ABS and all that stuff. So basically, everything a GT3 car has. No, they don't have an ESP, but they have a traction control, they have an ABS and many other little helpers that help you being quick. And the 935 doesn't have that.
And let me ask you this. A lot of classic historic cars, they don't run the full turbo because of the fragility and because they're basically priceless. But since your K3 was basically like new as it was in its spec, was it running? What were you running the full like turbo, like 1.5 bar?
Yes.
Oh man.
Not the entire. So I did have another. So the outing was about an hour, and I was allowed to use basically the full 1.5 bar, and then we're talking about 850 horsepower. If you go down a little bit. I mean, if we talk then maybe about 1.2 or 1.3 bar, it still produces 800 bhp, so it's still strong.
And the lag must have been huge, like
No,
straight away.
It's a bi-turbo, right? So that was a huge step in the development and the technical development coming from the K2 or any other ordinary 935 to the K3. The K3 is a 3-liter bi-turbo. So it has two smaller turbochargers as opposed to the K2, which features a really huge single turbocharger, and that has a really bad turbo lag. There is still a lag in the K3, of course, but you can handle that pretty well. And I was able to run with the K2 because the guy who owns the K3, he also owns the K2. He drove the K2. I was handling the K3 during that race, and I was behind him after the start for one lap, and I knew immediately he wouldn't have a chance, even though it was my first time in the 935 K3. The car is much more responsive, and also you can continuously run. When we talk about a race which lasts about for an hour, by the way, in this hour you burn 120 liters of fuel easily.
Jesus.
Yeah.
I mean,
and what usually happens to the ordinary 935 is because they do have a water-to-air intercooler. The longer the race lasts, the hotter the water gets, and hot water doesn't really cool charging air. So what they did on the K3 is they have an air-to-air cooler. And due to that, they can... So first of all, the amount of cooling is always the same. It doesn't change over the race. And on the other hand, you are able also, because the temperature is... when it comes to the engine temperatures, it's much healthier than in an ordinary 935. So you can steadily run or continuously run a higher boost than the other cars. So you permanently have those 800 to 850 bhp, as opposed to an ordinary 935 that gets weaker and weaker and weaker the hotter the water in the cooler gets.
So you have to basically be careful in like a non-K3 or some older version of the car. You have to be careful to not just turn up the boost and then eventually you just run out of power.
Yeah. So the longer the race, you've seen that. I mean, if you see classic videos from the Deutsche Rennsportmeisterschaft at the time, 1979 or so, 1979 was the dominant season of the Kramer Porsche K3. So they won the Deutsche Rennsportmeisterschaft. I think they won all races but one, and they also won Le Mans. And there were a couple of, say again.
Yeah, I've got the Nürburgring footage for it. So yeah, they pay. It was Klaus Ludwig. It was a white K3, I believe. Yeah, you got off the line, and it gave him about 2 laps, and he was already catching up to slowest Division 2 cars for a lap. It was crazy.
Yeah, that's the one thing. The other thing is that there have been races where other standard 935s from other teams like Lowe's or Liqui Moly with really good drivers, Fitzpatrick, Stommelen, and whoever was driving those cars at the time, they did lead a race, but they never made it to the finish line in first place, except for one race. I don't remember which one it was, but there was one race where Klaus didn't win, but that was unbelievable. Because in the end of the day, even when when they jumped the start and they were quicker at approaching the first corner than Ludwig in the K3, they might have led maybe for 2 or 3 or maybe 10 laps, but the longer the race lasted, the chances got worse and worse, and Klaus overtook them.
And I'm looking at the photos of the K3 you drove. You sent me a lovely PDF. I enjoyed reading it. Yeah, it really is as original as you say, because the cockpit is almost exactly like how it would be, like down to the gear knob. Like it still starts with turning the key and everything.
Exactly. So the key on the left-hand side, of course, because in the end of the day, we're talking about a really strong 911. And the car really behaves like a 911 when you drive it, because you have that fuel reservoir under the front hood. So as I said, it's 120 liters of fuel in that reservoir in the tank, and that's about like 90 to 100 kilos. And as I said, when you have a race that lasts for about an hour, you burn that 120 liter, and the driving behavior of the car changes from a full tank in the beginning to an empty tank in the end of the race, permanently.
So the front just gets light.
Exactly.
I would imagine the car would get more, would push more, would understeer.
Yeah, and exactly, you get it completely right, and this is absolutely the thing that you have to consider. And in the end of the day, I have to say it really suits my driving style. Anyways, I'm a smooth driver, at least. Well, I'm a smooth driver if I don't have to push really, and if I'm not in a fight with another car or many other cars. But usually when I'm out in the front somewhere, what I do is I tend to brake a little earlier than I should. Not that I should, but that I could. So like a meter or 2 meters before my absolutely point of no return, I hit the brakes. And then what you do with this technique is you avoid an understeering car at the entrance of the corner, because this is what you don't want to have. With the 935, you don't want to have that, and you don't want to have that with other cars as well. Because once the front wheels get grip again, you get a snap oversteer, and that is really hard to handle, especially with the 935 with the big engine in the back.
Oh yeah, and the last thing you want to do is just crash one of those 935s.
You'll be paying it off for the rest of your life.
In the first practice session, I did have a spin, and I encountered exactly that snap oversteer. But that, I learned my lesson, I think, pretty quick, so it wasn't a problem afterwards. So the thing, I mean, coming back to your initial question when you asked is this car is it so brutal as it appears to be, and as you read it in the magazines, etc. And I said, yes, it is, but on the other hand, you can cope with it. Why can you cope with it? Because it is important to know when you want to have how much of the power available. At what point in time do you need it? You don't just exit a corner and you step on the throttle 100%. You use it progressively, right? And once the car is almost straight, you just push the throttle, of course, but you cannot do it coming out of a second gear corner. No way.
No. Well, the thing is, yeah, that thing is, of course, as you said, it's brutal, and you can cope with it, as you also said. You have to learn it though. That's the major thing. Now you said you also drove, what was it, the
CSL?
the Schnitzer.
Mm-hmm.
And
It wasn't a Schnitzer car.
Sorry, my bad.
Yeah,
it was the CSL, the 3 liter.
In this case, it was a 3.5 liter.
Even better.
It was in the BMW M livery, the Motorsport Works livery.
Yes,
so
yes,
would
exactly.
would it be safe to assume it was like tuned up to behave like the Works cars?
Oh yes, because the guy who built it, he's from Austria, Harry Wergens. He was the guy who developed that car or who built that car. He was in the BMW organizations for many, many years, and he was a race driver himself back in the 70s and 80s. He did the ETCC as well and a couple of other championships, and he knows everything about the CSL. So in the end of the day, what the car that he has is not a proper factory car. It wasn't a works car, but it was a car that was built by BMW Italia at the time, I think back in 1973, and they built it for Vittorio Brambilla, the guy who won the Austrian Grand Prix in 1975 or something and crashed the car when he crossed the finish line.
I remember watching that.
That was Brambilla, and they built the car for him. Yeah, so so it's an ex BMW Italia car, and it's as good as the works car from Munich.
And is that the turbo one or the naturally aspirated?
No. It's an NA car.
Okay. All right.
Imagine having a 3.5 liter, what was it, 6-cylinder, and then put a turbo on
it. They had that.
Yeah,
I mean they turbocharged.
I know they did. They also they turbocharged the M1 as well.
I know, but that was Schnitzer. That was just Schnitzer. That wasn't a factory.
Oh yeah, okay, but the concept is similar. Like you take a big engine. I mean, big as in 3.5 liters is big, from my understanding. And turbocharger. How much power do you need?
They had like 800 HP as well in the turbo CSL. You know, that was the Frank Stella design on the car that they ran.
The 3.1 liter one. Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
3.1 or 3.2, something like that, and they ran like 800 bhp, but the car never lasted long because they had the engine, but they didn't have the powertrain. So the gearbox and everything else was just too weak.
Oh, I mean,
I'm seeing here the specs. 2 turbochargers, I think, and its power is adjustable from anywhere from 750 horsepower to around 850. So that kind of a bit more than that, maybe. I'm not sure exactly, but that's what my specs are telling me.
There's a YouTube video about Le Mans in 1976, and you can see the car running there, and it's unbelievable how quick this is. I mean, at the top of the field, there is the Porsche 936 and the Renault Alpine. But then there comes, I think, a Porsche 935 and already this factory CSL. That was great to see because it's a huge car compared to the Porsche 936, for instance.
Man.
Yeah. I can't imagine, like, we probably would need a whole second video just to talk about driving at Le Mans alone. But I don't know how you can sum it up in half an hour. But if you want to give it your best shot, you can.
Driving at Le Mans, you mean?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that's a dream come true because it's such a classic course. Unfortunately, we're talking about Le Mans Classic. That was back in 2016. And of course, as you can imagine, we don't run the old track like they did in the 1970s. We're running the contemporary track, which is a bit unfortunate, I think, because I don't really like the passage after start-finish. Because in the early days, there was just this fast uphill right-hander. Then you crossed, or you drove underneath the Dunlop Bridge, and then there was another short straight, and then you hit the S's left-right. And then you went down to Eau Rouge, and then the Unandière straight started, and there was no chicane at all in the old days. In the Le Mans Classic, of course, there are the chicanes, and there's also the new track layout that they are using after start-finish. So that bit of track I don't like so much. But then once you are in the S's, it's very, 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 I have to say, unique. It's unbelievable. And also the speeds that are being driven there, and also the speed differentials between the cars. I mean, the CSL, normally aspirated, it's not possible to reach a top speed of 330 on the Ulli Andree like the Porsche 935 does. So you have to really keep an eye on that. But in the end of the day, that was a dream come true. And I have to say that Le Mans Classic is something that I can recommend every race fan to go and visit, because this is just a feast for the eyes, for the ears, for everything.
At least once. It's great every year.
You have to do it. It's unbelievable. You mean as a racing driver? At least I have a problem to go to a racetrack without a task, without driving a car or any other task within a team. But Le Mans Classic would be the one event where I would say, even as a racing driver in a passive role, I could visit easily. It's unbelievable. The cars that you see there from the 1920s to the late 80s, it's just great. Also, the Group C is driving there. It's unbelievable.
There was the Turbo RSR was there that year, actually, I think.
Yeah. In 2016, it was there as well. Yes.
Yeah, it's just it's hard to find words for it, because there's too many things to describe. But I get it. I get exactly what you mean.
Yeah, and this Turbo RSR, I wonder. I think this is much harder to drive than the K3, because the weight distribution in that thing must be awesome. I don't know, like 30 to 70 in the back. I don't know.
Yeah, would not call the Widowmaker for nothing. Like, it's crazy.
Yeah, that was my thought right now. I mean, the first time I heard the word Widowmaker was in association with the 930. Like, when that thing came out, they called it Widowmaker because it would just kill you if you didn't pay enough attention to it.
Funny. But also, I mean, in Le Mans Classic, there is also, guys, I mean, there's a couple of Porsche 917s, and there is one pairing. I think the guys are coming from South America or so, Mexico maybe, I don't know, I don't remember. They own, and not Porsche owns it, as far as I know, they own the original 1970 Le Mans winning Porsche 917. You know, the red one with the white stars.
Oh, get out of here.
The short tail.
The 917K, is it?
Yeah, exactly.
Oh my god!
Because the long tails stay.
I don't wanna say something wrong here, but as far as I'm informed, that's the original and not the one that's in the Porsche Museum. And believe it or not, they kicked that car's ass a great deal during that event. It is unbelievable. I don't know if you've ever seen a 917 live at the track. I mean, I was too little. So I haven't seen it in the 70s when it was racing. I mean, basically it was 69, 70, 71, and then afterwards it was banned. So I didn't see it originally. Then coming to Le Mans and see this car run and hearing this car run, it was unbelievable.
I don't even want to imagine the price. The price tag must be disgusting.
I mean, imagine being the unfortunate SOB. To crash the car. Imagine you drive at Le Mans Classic, you're having the time of your life in that thing, and then I don't know, something goes wrong, a tire blows, gearbox or something.
Yeah.
It doesn't even need to be your fault, and you crash it.
Then you have a problem.
God rest your soul. Yeah. You will never live it down. Never live it down.
There is one story about a journalist who convinced or persuaded David Piper into him having raced his 917 or test his 917. The green one.
Wait, the green one? Oh, that one.
David Piper's cars, no matter if it were the Ferraris or the Porsches, they were all green.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. And this journalist tested the car and he wrecked the engine because the gearbox of a 917 is said to be a little bit delicate, and he wanted to upshift from 3 to 4, but he managed to come from 3 to 2.
Oh no! He money shifted it.
God. So, and it blew the engine, and Piper had him pay for the engine, and that was fortune.
Was that back in the day, like in 70 or 71?
No, that was, I don't know, like in the 90s already. No, it's It's a tragic story. I think it was pretty tragic for this poor journalist, because he was having the time of his life and then wrecked the engine. Just imagine that.
Oh, it wouldn't. It would. I mean, it would have been bad already if it had been back in the day when that car was actually racing.
Or even the professionals did that.
Yeah,
There
of
was
course,
that one.
of course.
There was that one Gulf Porsche 917. I think it must have been in 1971, where was it David Hobbs who missed a gear and wrecked the engine as well. So there were a couple of mishaps.
Of course, but when you're a racing driver, okay, these things happen. But then you're
Yeah.
a journalist. You take the thing for a joyride or something. Ooh,
It depends on the
God bless
journalist.
you.
I do
God
know.
rest you.
I do know a couple of journalists that really, and I don't know if they try to be the overachievers, but they don't give a shit. Unfortunately, others do, of course.
Anyway, the last thing, because I see we're slowly running out of time. You said you have to go at 6 p.m. and it's 5:53.
Yeah. If it's 6:05 or 6:10, that's okay as well.
Okay, I'll take your word for that. But one thing I personally just want to mention, or want to just ask also about, because we have talked about that before I started recording this. Nürburgring. You drove in the Nürburgring in the 24-hour race.
Yeah, the 24 hours race, and also the what we know in Germany as VLN, or today it's called NLS, so VLN and NLS. That's this international endurance championship that's being exclusively held on the Nürburgring Nordschleife. So it's usually 10 races a year plus the 24 hours, and I did all of that. And in 2012, I was lucky enough to have the right package, the right team, the right tires, the right co-drivers, the right car to win the German Endurance Championship outright.
That's amazing. That's amazing. How to someone just looking in from the outside, you watch the races on TV, or in my case, I only watched the 24-hour race, because I don't think the others actually get broadcast on free TV.
Yeah, but on YouTube.
Yeah, of course on YouTube, but that only started a few years ago, like 2 or 3 years ago. But the 24 hours, you see, when they broadcast that at night, especially, everyone's out there partying on the side of the track, having barbecues and whatever. When you're sitting in that car,
you smell it.
You smell it. And do you get that feeling? When is my next pit stop? I need to get out and get me something to eat.
No, I think you're pretty much concentrated, so you don't do that. But I do remember one situation that must have been, I don't know, like 2002 or 2003, when I exited Adenauer Forst, and then there's a short straight which is called Metzgesfeld, and then there was a big, it looked like fog. It was really, really foggy. And I mean, at the Nürburgring, it happens. You get fog every now and then. And I thought, oh my gosh, is it going to start now? And then I went into the smoke, and I smelled it was coming from a barbecue.
Amazing.
Yeah, I mean, Nürburgring Nordschleife is really super unique. I mean, Le Mans is unique, but Nordschleife as well. I mean, it's really...
You mentioned
kind of the pinnacle. I would say that it's the mother of all racetracks still. I mean, I've driven there many races, so not that I don't respect the track anymore, but you get used to it somehow. So from time to time, I thought it would make
muscle
sense to
memory.
also drive other championships and go to Spa and go to Zandvoort is a great track, for instance. Imola, Monza, Mugello, what have you, great tracks around, but still Nordschleife is the mother of all races.
Yeah. You mentioned having the right teammates for a combination to win championships and things like that.
Yes.
One notable thing that I noticed, since we're on the topic of the racing in the 70s and all these great drivers, you drove alongside Mario Ketterer. Is that right?
Yeah, that was in 2003.
2003. Do you want to tell us your experience about how he's like? Because he drove some great racing cars.
Yeah, I know. He drove Group 5 and Group 6 cars, so we were driving at the time. That was 2003, as I said, and in the early 2000s, I was a factory driver for Volvo. So I did develop a car for the Nürburgring 24 Hours in the VLN series, together with a professional team that was based on a Volvo S60. And as you can imagine, the S60 is a front-wheel driven car, and Mario wasn't so much into front-wheel driven cars, so he didn't really feel well in the car. But personally, he's really easygoing and a really nice guy, and it was great to have him on the team.
That's really good to hear. One fixture of the Nürburgring, at least in the 24-hour race, one thing that I always look forward to seeing.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm walking on eggshells now because there's that bit has very split opinions. It's always it's the Manta, the old Manta. Have you ever thought you would drive that thing, or what's your view on that? Because some people say that car is so old it shouldn't drive anymore. And some people are just looking forward to seeing that foxtail in the wind.
That's a nasty question, you know that. I mean, in the end of the day, it's two hearts in just the one heart really says. So I wouldn't want to go back to a slower car than the cars that I used to drive there. On the other hand, why shouldn't I? Maybe, I don't know, I don't want to sound arrogant, so maybe I should be humble and go back. Slower cars, why not? But I've never been so much into the Manta, I have to say, honestly. I mean, there's great guys who are driving this, also Volker Stritzek, who's not a friend of mine, but we know each other and respect each other pretty well. He has been driving the Manta as well, and I mean, in the end of the day, when we talk about the 24 hours race, it really has completely lost its roots, hasn't it? Because in the old days, you had all the privateer teams, you had all these cars like the Mantas and the Golfs and all these Group 1 and Group 2 cars that were battling the race out. And today, what you can see on the TV is only the GT3 cars. You don't see any more than that. And even if you don't run a GT3 car, if you, for instance, run an SP4T class car, which is pretty quick, it costs you $100,000. I mean, we're talking about $100,000 just to have that car entered and raced in the 24 hours race. You don't see that car at all, and they are racing their ass off, I can tell you.
So that's just a tiny bit discouraging for the guy that's sitting and listening and thinking, oh, I kind of want to drive it in Nürburgring 24 hours. Yeah, okay, start saving.
Yeah, you could. Yeah, I mean, there were the you remember 2021. There were these Dacia guys.
Oh yeah.
I mean, this is really where 24-hour race comes from.
That was a fan favorite as well, like almost instantly. It was so slow. Got lapped by the GT3s like 4 or 5 times at least per lap, but the people loved it.
Yeah, exactly. And this is where the 24-hour race has its origins.
It's culture, it's heritage, it's tradition to have it. Like it wouldn't be the same without it. That's why people.
Yeah. I mean, the thing about the Nürburgring, but it's not just the 24 hours race, but also VLN. If we take a look at the lap times today, they are on the VLN track of the Nürburgring. They do it below 8 minutes, 7:53 or something. In the old track, it's not so long ago that the organizers said, let's freeze the lap times at 8:30. And 8:30 is the time that the old Mantai Porsches and the Viper, I think, was quicker than 8:30. But the DTM Mercedes 190E, when they were racing VLN, the older Porsches, etc., they were running around the 8:30. And that was spectacular. It was good enough. For me, it was good enough. I mean, of course, it's challenging to take a GT3 car out on the Nürburgring Nordschleife and try to go below 8 minutes, but the fan doesn't really see that.
No, it's especially like that's my personal opinion. That GT3 cars is just a bit. There's too much of. Like I would rather see more different, more diverse classes, especially on the Nürburgring, than just having GT3 and the others. Because you always see the GT3s.
I remember in 2013, my team, with which I won the championship in 2012, we switched cars and we entered an Audi TTRS, not a road going car. It was a TTRS with. In the end of the day, we're talking about a car with a downforce level of an Audi R8 GT3. So, but it has a 5-cylinder turbo engine in the front. It has a sequential gearbox, and it's a damn quick car. And guess what? In 2013, we entered the car for our first race, and it was raining heavily, and we were all good. We felt pretty comfortable in the rain, and the car was very drivable in the rain, and we led outright. We were in front of the GT3 cars. Guess what happens after that?
Well, then GT3s just came.
No. After the race.
After the race. I thought after the rain.
No, after the race. We got weight, smaller tires, a smaller air restrictor. So basically, we were not able to conquer the GT3 cars anymore.
Oh, BOP to hell.
Mm-hmm.
I think. Oh, BOP, Matt. That's a term you never want to hear again.
Oh, if you get me going now, I won't stop ranting about BOP and all these politics. You won't hear the end of it, so yeah. I'll leave it. I'll allow it.
All right. Anyway, so that's definitely very interesting stories. I must say, I wish we could stay for another hour or two and just talk about this stuff. But
yeah, I mean, we can do it again sometime.
Definitely. I'm personally, I'm very much open to that. Matt is likely to be open for that stuff as well. I mean,
yeah, definitely.
You don't get that opportunity every day. But I think eventually, I don't know. At some point, your wife has to be standing behind you and be like, "Come on, Ezio."
Yeah, my wife is not so much into cars, and neither is she into racing. And I spend a lot of time at the racetracks, I have to say.
Oh, man. It was a pleasure to have you on here, to be honest.
Thanks for the invite. Was a pleasure. Yeah.
Thank you very much. All right. So that was an interesting interview, like an interesting talk, an interesting chat with Ulli Andree. He was really chill. He was really chill generally. And yeah, as he already said, like
I liked it.
If he's not that busy, I mean, he said, yeah, all right, I can chat again, whatever, or whatever, basically.
Yeah, really detailed stuff about the cars, so I have to speak to him again.
I didn't expect him to. I didn't expect him to swear either, like. When he's talking, like, yeah, people like just not give a shit, just drive the shit out of the Porsche. Like I was trying to be moderate with my talking. There were like a few times where I restrained myself from dropping a bomb, and then he just does it anyway. So it was a pleasantly surprised. So I think also we're like all chill enough to just refer to each other on a first name basis anyway. So yeah, that was Ulli Andree. Who knows, maybe eventually I will have my goal of speaking to Mario.
You dream of getting Mario and you beat me to it. You dream of interviewing Mario Andretti before. So
I mean, I mean the thing is just with all of these like people, like these racing drivers from the back then, they always have these absolutely great stories. Like again, if you look, for example, the Dale Jr. Download, the episode with Darrell Waltrip, like the stuff you listen to, you could never do that nowadays. Like having a nitrous bottle in the car for qualifying and opening it during qualifying and just so you can go faster or something like that. or having lead shot in the frame rails and then releasing that lead shot out of the cars to make it lighter or so. All this stuff, like And look, I mean,
All these little bits, little cheeky cheatings.
it's only cheating if
Cheeky
you
little
get
bit
caught.
of-
So yeah, like stuff
Yeah.
like that. Like I'm pretty sure, like Daryl Waltrip. I mean, or his brother Michael, or stuff. I don't know. Or you know what would be. Okay, but that's really unrealistic. Friggin' AJ Foyt, or the guys in his 80s. I mean, I don't know. But I'm pretty sure, like AJ Foyt, he would have a lot of stories to tell because he's been there since the 50s. The first 4-time winner of the Indy 500 as well. So anyway, back on topic. We had, again, as I said, we had a really pleasant chat with Ulli Andree. I hope everyone watching this liked it as well. And who knows? We'll hopefully get some stuff like that with more people in the future. And with that being said, I'm checking out from the CMH podcast for tonight. So yeah, see you around. And remember to check out the CMH forum at classicmotorsporthub.boards.net. Link is in the description of the video, as well as our Discord link. And don't forget that we'll be here with more racing, starting in February with the DRM 1978 Nürburgring Trophy Race.